I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with two-time Emmy-winning DP Adriano Goldman. Adriano, you recently said that The Crown has been your longest and dearest project and has changed your life and career. In what ways has it changed your life and career?
The group and the team we put together since season one, I mean, it's pretty much the same team. Even now, finishing on season 6, I mean, I'd say that 80% of the crew is still the same. Wow. After 6 seasons. So there's an amazing environment. There's an amazing friendship, that we developed, and we also kind of there's no lack of perfectionism, because you think that season after season you would be able to find some sort of a comfort zone, but I think that's never been the case with The Crown. I mean, we always want to deliver something better and stronger and richer and etc. So I think, in a way, I'm not sure if that translates how it changed my life and my career, but it just put me, I mean, in a different sort of place.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
And the challenge, that I face every single day, and I still feel very much challenged by the project, by the fact that I am still an immigrant. You're living in a different country, you have to adapt to the culture, and and be one of them, which is not always easy. But anyway, I think I grew up a lot, as a person and as a professional since I started on The Crown. And that is a life change anyway, right? You just sometimes you don't even perceive how much you're changing. But people in general keep telling me, how they, people that have followed my career and understand, the big change and the big the accomplishments and all the accolades and awards. I mean, there's no way this is not going to change your life and your perspective onto what you do. And it's just it changed me completely. I mean, it's very hard to actually be able to be specific and technical about it.
That's right.
It's just how I feel. I mean, it changed completely. I mean, the way I see filmmaking, the way I see the work with the crew and showrunners and directors in general. I mean, the privilege I've had to be able to work with, I don't know, maybe 8 different directors. I mean, I can probably put the number together, but throughout the seasons, and also the shows I did in between the seasons. I mean, it's really, I mean, it's been an amazing privilege. Now also my family has moved, to the UK with me. So yeah, it's a massive change. Yeah.
And then
for the better.
Like, you get to work on a show like this, is such a rich show visually, and you've been nominated for every season at the Emmys. You've won twice, as I mentioned earlier, in 2018 and last year, Fairy Tale. What's the best part of being invited to, Hollywood's big night and then actually winning twice?
I know I mean, it always sounds like a cliche, but it is truly a dream coming true. I mean, it really is. I remember when I was, very young, still kind of a movie buff, and I used to, watch, I don't know, tons, dozens of films a week, etc. And I remember there was one moment where I started to get more interested about, who's who. I mean, who's actually shooting this, and who's the designer, and so why do I like this, and who are the artists behind it? And I remember those amazing letters that used to come, that still come after some DOP's names, the ASCs and the BSCs and the Australian Cinematographer Society, and etc. So there was like the top guns for me. I mean, those guys, it's like they carry medals on their chests and etc. And also the award ceremonies that I used to follow, and if one day I could be one of them, and etc. etc. So I'm not really kidding. I mean, it was really part of my, when I kind of transitioning from being a movie buff to actually trying a place in the industry. I used to follow, and really follow DOP's careers and watch every single movie that Storaro did, and Chris Menges, and so many others, and Robert Richardson, and like every single movie. I mean, how those guys developed the artistic pattern. I mean, how do they change from film to film, and how do they adapt to a different story and different director. And, you know, I became obsessed about, you know, trying to break down careers. I mean, how many movies you can do throughout whatever 20, 30 years of your life. And now, you know, and then you're invited to a ceremony like the Emmys, and how prestigious the Emmys are getting, you know, year after year after year. And then, you know, suddenly, you know, kind of, you know, I'm there, and, you know, putting a suit and a tie to actually come to go to the ceremony. And, you know, I try also, of course, once you're nominated, you know, the expectations really, really, you know, comes to you and gets to you, and you get anxious and you get excited, and you want to be there. But you have to tell yourself all the time, it shouldn't be about winning. It should really be about the recognition. It should be about the fact that, you know, I'm there, you know, I'm on the list, I'm on this very short list.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I remember, you know, the short conversation. I had one meeting with Chivo once in my life, you know, Emmanuel Lubezki. And I remember he had just won his first Oscar, if I remember, for Birdman. And he said, look, you just have to see it like this. A nomination is winning. You know, actually winning the award it's something else. It just happens eventually to you. So the period between the nomination and the actual ceremony is when you really profit, is where you really get the attention. You get the, you know, you get to do something like this, what I'm doing now, you know, talking to you and projecting your name in your career. So there's more people talking about what you do, and not only you as an artist, as a professional, but as a person as well, how you communicate and how you talk about life and career and etc. So, I mean, I love this. I love to be able to have a voice in a way, you know, and get this amazing attention, you know. I mean, I don't say there's a downside on this. I mean, I can say I'm quite reserved and shy, so you have to somehow articulate and be able to express yourself. So it's a challenge. I mean, it's not because you're not like in a situation like I am now facing you and having this interview. You're not a DOP. I mean, this is not my usual environment. So
that's right.
But I love it, and more I understand how important this is, not only for me in my career, but, you know, for whatever students and young filmmakers, when they get to, you know, see these interviews and understand what we do and how we progress in life and career.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to be able to be also a reference for other DOPs. And so it is amazing. Yeah.
In this day and age of the amount of amazing television that we get to consume and love and enjoy, and The Crown is absolutely in that class, right at the top. And so is, by the way, Andor and other shows. Andor, of course, is one that you worked on as well. I want to talk about episode 3, which, you know, you had a choice to what was your highlight. And I think episode 3 was such a good choice because it's so immersive. It's a change of pace for the show, isn't it? Is that really one of the main reasons why you really wanted to submit that as your highlight?
Well, yes, I mean, absolutely. And also, ironically, because I've done on season 5, the only actually, season 5 was kind of particular anyway, because I was doing Andor, I couldn't actually jump back on The Crown season 5 from the very beginning, like because it was offered to me. Look, they wanted me to do the first 2 episodes, like I usually do, let's say. But I couldn't because I was finishing on Andor. But I really, really wanted to. I didn't want to skip a season on The Crown, so I made all possible efforts to, you know, make myself available at the end of Andor. So when I jumped back into The Crown, I could only do 2 episodes, you know, the third and the last one. And I you know, the third, I'd say the 10th one it's a lovely episode. It's a beautiful episode, but I think it's a little bit more conventional is not the word, but it's more like the usual Crown.
Yeah, it's in keeping with the Crown's aesthetic. Like, yes,
exactly. And Ep 3 very much feels like almost like a spin-off, because you somehow you detour and you start following Mohammed Al Fayed's life and his sons and etc. etc. And this beautiful arc, because I imagine the audience keep just asking themselves, when are they going to finally meet? You know, Dodi and Diana. And I mean, no spoilers, but I imagine people have seen it.
Yeah.
It happens only at the very end, so it's very clever the way Peter wrote the episode, and also the choices that Alex Gabassi, the director, made with Peter in terms of like not trying to villainize Mohammed too much. I mean, it's very controversial. I mean, his personality and how he really was. But also Salim Dahl, I mean, he gives so much. I mean, his performance is so outstanding, and there's no way to. I mean, you just absolutely fall in love with the character. I mean, of course, you keep asking yourself, I mean, do I really like this guy? Is he really a good? Is he really a good person? And that's also a merit of Salim's performance, because it's so well balanced. I mean, how bossy he is, but also how lovely and how energetic and how funny he is sometimes.
And his relationship with Sydney, and
his relationship with, exactly, and how he tries to humanize himself, you know, all the way through. I mean, it's unbelievable. Honestly, the work that Alex did is so subtle and so elegant. And the episode is so rich, because I remember, I mean, I didn't shoot episode 103, but if the audience remembers, that's the fog episode, right? That Ula Berkland shot on season 1. So I kind of compared these two episodes because they feel to me like they are proper spin-offs. So on the fog episode, you're following this secretary, and you keep asking her, why am I following this young lady? And then, you know, then you eventually understand why. And then on 503, Mumu, it feels more or less the same. I mean, where's the royal family on this episode? And then, but you don't really miss them because it's so rich what you're introduced to. I mean, the first sequence, I mean, the pre-title sequence, the flashback in Alexandria, I mean, that is amazing. And I love the fact that it's so, I imagine, I hope that's the case, that you click and you start watching this episode and you keep like asking, what is this that I'm watching? I mean, is this really The Crown? So I think The Crown still delivers that excitement. You know, it just, there's always something new. There's always a new flavor.
Yeah.
And season 6, it's going to be a special one, I'd say. It's full of those events. It's full of, you know, tiny spin-offs. And I mean, the first 4 episodes are all combined. I mean, it's going to be like, you know, massive. It really is massive. I'm not going to tell anything.
No, you can't. But I will remind people that when we spoke on our first interview, you said to me very clearly, wait till you see season 4, particularly episode 3. I think it was 3 or 4. It will blow your mind. And I thought, okay, we'll see. And you were so right. So I'm so looking forward to season 6. We'll get there in a minute, but I wanted to ask you this, because all the Egypt scenes and Khalid Abdullah playing Dodi and the whole montage in the beginning before the credits, you know, with the wedding and then the birth, it was beautiful. The episode also features the Chariots of Fire scene.
Oh, yes.
And David Watkins is a great DP, and he shot the film. And I'm wondering, what were you thinking when you set up those scenes, recreating that moment from a very, very important and popular film?
Thank you for the question. It's really, really good. It's funny how, because we have this massive research team and some script editors that, you know, they are with us on a daily basis on set, trying to offer material, you know, just to keep feeding. They keep feeding us up with actual historic information that we can use or not use or whatever. So, but there's always, you know, the research department is a very strong one on The Crown. And I am sometimes a little bit skeptical about this level of accuracy, right? So, okay, it's historical, but it's also fiction. But I remember that Alex was very adamant from the very beginning that he wanted to be able to reproduce. He actually found an amazing behind-the-scenes picture that where you could actually see that wooden ramp that they built on the day. So that's
Yeah.
all real. And I remember he was obsessed about accuracy in terms of making it as close to reality as possible. So not only finding a location, we couldn't actually go to the same location where they shot Chariots of Fire, but we, you know, the research and the search for the best location in terms of matching the best we could with the Chariots of Fire location. Also, mimicking the gag, because we found out that the wooden ramp was basically, they had to improvise a ramp because of the weather. The weather was so bad when they actually shot the running scene on Chariots of Fire that they couldn't use the crane. But that the director still wanted something starting high and finishing low. So they had to build on the day that ramp. So what you actually see, a dolly ramping down or coming down the ramp, it's actually the same technique they applied for the actual footage, the real footage. So Alex was obsessed about mimicking not only the run, the number of runners, you know, the weather, the location, but also, you know, a little bit of the behind the scenes facts. And just as a curiosity, we managed to find the guy that actually plays the camera operator that you actually see on the shot coming down on the dolly was the focus puller on the actual day on Chariots of Fire. So, and he's retired now, but we found them and then it just invited him to come to be the camera operator. So he was another one. So he told us so many stories about the film on the day that, you know, it was really amazing. And it's sometimes, you know, when you go for accuracy, it's not you trying to make, you know, exactly like they did, but it's some sort of a tribute, an homage for such an iconic movie. And you know, and it's funny that people don't realize till today, people have to be remembered that Dodi Al-Fayed was, you know, the producer, right. And he won an Oscar for that. I mean, people don't remember anymore. So it was amazing. That scene was just amazing. And you could see the joy. I mean, not only Salim and Khalid, I mean, on the day, it was just amazing. Even the essays that we had running, I mean, it was just, and the actual running take where we start on the feet and we run, the one we actually mimic slow motion, mimicking the, you know, the most precisely we could. It was the first take, basically. We shot one take, and I remember all of us screaming because it was so similar, you know, and we had just a couple more goals, but we actually used the first take.
Wow. There's so much to unpack in this episode. I think it's an absolute, as well as episode 6, 2 of my favorite episodes of the season. Absolutely. My final question before I let you go, very briefly. Obviously, you're the DP on Andor. You set the scene in the pilot for Tony Gilroy's dark vision of that show, and then you did that beautiful Narkina 5 trilogy of episodes. To me, some of the best work I've seen all season, particularly One Way Out. In very briefly, what was your highlight for working on Andor?
The scale of it, the crazy scale of it. I remember when I got invited, they told me that initially, because when I got invited like mid-lockdown, like mid-pandemic, and they told me the story. They were at that very moment adapting all the scripts, because initially there was supposed to be, I don't know how many different countries that we were supposed to visit for the saga, and because of the COVID restrictions, they had to rebudget, reschedule, rescale the whole project. So Luke Hull, the production designer, absolute genius, had to build the majority of the sets, and basically, I don't know, 80% of those sets were all built. Yeah. Apart from block 2, that I call the green episode, when they go to, you know, so those amazing exteriors that Frank Lamb shot in Scotland, those are location work, and everything else was done on sets, but in such a way that I felt that I was shooting that I was shooting an indie movie on another planet. So basically, my approach to lighting was basically almost like I was shooting on locations, right? So I had to address the practicals and the lights coming from the windows and, you know, the reality of it, because we all wanted something very realistic and touchable. And I remember Tony Gilroy just vividly remember him saying, I want to be able to see their breath. I want to be able to feel the skin and the sweat. So this is supposed to be real and believable. And there's of course there's a lot of VFX shots, but there's not, you know, we didn't use the volume like the Mandalorian did. So it's really indie-like, and it's really rough and realistic. I mean, even the prison block, like you mentioned, there was, I mean, the whole thing was built. I mean, we were basically working on inside like a real prison, you know, somewhere in another planet. So, and also Tony's leadership and Senna's supervision over all this. I mean, senior people, senior professionals, and it was just unbelievable. And also there's something very different that I want to mention, because I was, you know, when you do period projects or contemporary projects, it's somehow compared to something like Andor, it's easy to prep because everything exists, right? So you can go to a location, you can check costumes, you can, you know, you have the furniture, you can discuss color and tones and saturation and etc. When I jumped into my first week of prep on Andor, nothing, absolutely nothing existed. So nothing. So it's a complete different way of prepping for such a massive show. So you have to adjust your brain, your creativity. You have to be more patient. You have to learn new technologies, like how to use the previs, how to be able to actually step into a virtual set and look around and trying to translate that into an actual space and talk to your gaffer in terms of what is the lighting approach. And, you know, I remember how many conversations I had with Luke, because also it's a privilege for the DOP to start so early, because you can be specific about light sources that you want to build in to the sets, right? So I had, you know, 100% support from the design department. So it was, you know, a proper interesting connection between the DOP and the designer. So kind of building this universe, you know, it's, I mean, look, again, I have no words to translate how incredible he is. I mean, in terms of how creative he is and how efficient and modest and approachable. Anyway, it was just a joy, but really like so completely different from prepping for shows like The Crown and contemporary shows that I did before. Anyway, so it was like going to university again, you know, like having to learn new technologies, new ways to prep. Was just amazing. Yeah, really amazing. I feel kind of jealous, and I feel sad sometimes because I couldn't do Andor 2 for obvious reasons. I mean, it felt to me that I knew season 6 was going to be the last one on The Crown, and it made more sense to actually to complete, you know, also the fact that I did literally the very first one, and now I shot the very last one with Stephen Daldry. I mean, the same director, the first and the last, so full circle for both of us. So I mean, yeah, it's been life-changing and always very enjoyable.
It really is. What a gift. You're working on 2 of the best shows on television, and for that, Adriano, I congratulate you and thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.